VHS files contain spoilers, adult content, and harsh language. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to the VHS Files podcast, and tonight we're talking Cronenberg. Cronenberg.
Hey, I've got my Cronenberg shirt on too.
Yeah, I was watching that earlier.
Super closely. Zoom in on that. It says Shivers
I see
on
that.
My shirt. So there you have it.
Tonight we're going back to the first feature film Mr. David Cronenberg ever directed in 1975's Shivers. And this was a first-time watch for Eric, I think, right?
It was, yes. I've owned it for quite a while. It's just been sitting there collecting dust, and I thought it was time to give it a shot. Plus, we already talked about, what's the worm one? Squirm, yeah, we talked about Squirm. We've talked about Night of the Creeps, which also is very similar here. You know, we're hitting all the weird wormy parasite business, right? We're covering it pretty well.
Yeah, we need to do Slither next.
Yeah, well,
we do need to do Sliver probably at some point. Just after all this, it seems necessary at this
right.
point.
Well, I do have a question. You said it's first. When I looked it up, they say it's his third movie.
There's some contingency there because he did two movies before this that were like student films. It was the original Crimes of the Future he did, which he just did. His new movie is called Crimes of the Future,
but they're not related. I found that out.
No. And there's one before that, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But this was his first full-length feature that he did.
Oh, okay.
Finally did come up with the idea to make my first feature film, which was Shivers. I felt really quite like somebody on Mars in Canada trying to make this film because it wasn't even recognized by a lot of people as a horror film.
Okay. Well, it was first time watch for me. I've never seen this.
It's not very often we talk about a movie that Jason hasn't seen. So I'm anxious to hear what kind of opinions Jason has about David Cronenberg's first movie here.
So you've seen this then, Josh?
I had seen it before.
How many times? You see it a long time ago? Recently? What?
I sought it out probably after listening to Film Junk or something and hearing them talk about David Cronenberg. And so I sought the movie out, and I got really into Cronenberg there after I had watched, Videodrome and Naked Lunch and all those sort of movies. So I whenever I get into a director like that, I kind of just go back and want to see all the filmography at that point.
Yeah.
And, I found this on a DVD, I believe, and then Vestron Video eventually released it on Blu-ray a couple years ago. But just because it was the first, David Cronenberg movie, and then Rabid was shortly thereafter that. So I started seeking those out, and Scream Factory's done an edition of Rabid. So we're getting all these older Cronenberg movies, and then like some of his other older stuff, like The Brood and Scanners, are all in the Criterion collection. So I've got all these editions of these movies, and I'd watched Shivers a long time ago when I was first really getting into Cronenberg, and then watched it again a little while back whenever I was watching Brandon Cronenberg's movies. I kind of went back and watched some of older Cronenberg then, and then I watched it twice for the podcast here tonight. So I'm kind of familiar with it at this point.
You're familiar with it at this point. Yeah, I've seen a good bit of Cronenberg, but there are some holes for me. This was one of them. I haven't seen Naked Lunch, but I'm trying to fill in those holes. I haven't seen the Crimes of the Future yet either, which I'm excited to see.
I want to see that
as soon as I get around to it.
Yeah, I saw that earlier this year. I really like it, but then again, I'm a Cronenberg fanboy, so therefore all the shit people
Cronenbergian.
I'm a Cronenbergian. That was, I've talked about it on the show before, but that was like the selling point for Rick and Morty for me. It was that one episode where he's like, I Cronenberg the world, Marty. I did it. So I was like, oh shit, Rick and Morty gets me. So let's do this.
Yep.
My original title for Shivers was Orgy of the Blood Parasites, because I was ready to really go for it, not hold back. We're making a horror film, let's go for it. At a certain point, they wanted to pull it back to the parasite murders, a little less confrontational maybe. and then ultimately was called Shivers in Canada, and then in the U.S. they called it They Came From Within. And then it ended up making $5 million, and was the first film that had ever actually returned the investment of the Canadian Film Development Corporation.
So yeah, this thing, went through a couple of different name changes and whatnot in its release, and came out in September 26th of 1975.
In Texas.
Budget of less than $200,000 Canadian, and did a box office of 1 million Canadian.
This was one of the best performing Canadian films of its time.
I believe it still has yet to be surpassed.
Really?
Yeah.
That can't be true.
A couple of years after this came out, he was showing it at a film festival in Germany or something like that. And someone stood up.
A German film festival in the town of Hof. I showed Shivers many years later, and afterwards a man stood up, a German, who said, "How dare you show this film, having stolen everything from Aliens in it, from the film Alien." And I said, well, you have to realize that this film was done quite a few years before Alien, and the writer Dan O'Bannon had admitted to many people that he knew the film Shivers. And then he said, well, then we know who the thief is, he said. There are more than a few similarities to what later became known as the Alien effects.
He's got a point. He's got a little bit of a point. I love Alien, you guys know. I'm not shitting on Alien by any stretch. It's a much better movie than this. Inspiration come from anywhere. But it's interesting.
Yeah. So there's absolutely a ton of movies that have drawn some sort of influence from this particular kind of story. Like you've got Alien, even so much as like the show Severance that's out on Apple TV right now. Like I was getting sort of that sort of vibe. It's a little disconnected because that's work and home stuff, whereas this is all taking place within like a home community that's like on an island by itself and whatnot. But that new Korean film, The Sadness, that came out, that's sort of based on the Crossed comic book. You got some of the same sort of stuff, like some sort of parasite or some sort of illness taking people over and making them super sexual, which is what Cronenberg was going for here.
Yeah,
and,
Sliver, of course, as we've already mentioned, does the same thing.
I even was getting some It Follows kind of vibes from this.
Sure. Yeah. What we're talking about here are like rape zombies, right?
Yeah.
They're rape zombies.
Yep.
I dubbed them rapies.
Rapies.
They have the rapies.
Yeah,
I think the name of this movie should be called Rapies.
That's the other thing, is Rabid is kind of a similar kind of vibe to this movie, I think.
Yeah. I was just watching Rabid earlier, and that one, I've seen that one more than Shivers at this point, but that one's kind of a vampire-ish sort of movie, but it's the same sort of thing. Like, woman gets in a bad accident, they replace one of her body parts, and then that is, and it's
of course, and this is about organ transplant,
right?
Organ replacement, that kind of stuff, replacing. I mean, you got your Cronenberg talking about the flesh and reducing humanity, looking at lust, looking at sex, looking at flesh, looking at the desires of the flesh, fleshy flesh, right?
Yeah.
This dude loves him some flesh. He loves him some like basic human or almost like instinctive, like animalistic,
primal sexual urges.
Primal desires, sexual urges, that kind of stuff. This movie goes to some dark places.
It does, but it does it in a very cheap and slow way.
Yeah.
Slow? Sorry, hold up. I didn't think this movie was slow.
Well, we'll get into that here in just a moment.
Okay,
but
sorry. We're getting
before we get there, we're going back to 1975. So, Eric, take us there.
We're sending you back in time. Whoa, this is heavy.
Well, Josh, in 1975, the kids were doing the Devil's Dance to songs like Kung Fu Fighting by Carl Douglas, and The Hustle by Van McCoy. Moviegoers were witnessing cinematic euphoria with films like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The Rocky Horror Picture Show, and some shark movie. I forget what it's called. It's like Mouth or Teeth or something.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
The Ford F-150 truck was introduced in 1975. You guys hear about the three rednecks that drove off a bridge in an F-150?
No, it didn't. Tell me.
See, the driver, he rolls down the window and escapes. But unfortunately, the other two died. They couldn't get the tailgate down. The ring tab beer and soda can design was discontinued in 1975 for our new current can style. You guys know what you call a chemist that makes soda?
No, tell me.
You call it a physicist. Physicist. Yeah.
Nah.
Sony introduces the Betamax videotape in 1975. But we'll talk about that more on the Betamax Files podcast.
That's right. Different generation, different podcast.
Yeah, that's on another show. And finally, let's see what Burger King was doing in 1975. Hit it, Josh.
Introducing that king of fun, the one who's okay with us kids, the Magic Burger King.
Magic Burger King.
The Magic Burger King.
I'm the marvelous magical Burger King.
He's marvelous.
He's doing magic.
Now watch me, kids, when I twist my ring like magic.
When you twist his ring, you teleport to Burger King.
I'm the marvelous magical.
Is he the original Doctor Strange? That's his sling ring, dude.
Yeah, good call. Good call. Sling ring. He turns apples into fried apple pies, which is cool.
Dude, he's like redheaded carbohydrate Jesus.
I can do most anything. I love
He can do most anything.
What's funny is he really does look like the more recent plastic, like I guess that I had never seen the live action version of the more recent like mascot of the king.
Yeah,
That's
because
what I
it's
was
just
about
a
to
mask.
say.
Yeah.
Does look like him.
Yeah, I mean, you got McDonald's with their clown, so I guess they said, well, let's make the Burger King a magician.
Oh, so you're saying Burger King's the devil?
The devil.
They use witchcraft to make you eat their burgers.
I can't tell you the last time I ate at a Burger King. It's kind of crazy.
Burger King sucks.
The only thing I would normally get at a Burger King is the croissant at breakfast.
Every now and then I'll give them a chance, and they let me down every time. Burger King sucks. You heard it here, folks.
I think the last time I actually sat down at a Burger King and ate was when it was a Halloween and they had the black burger.
Oh, the black burger. I never got to try that. Yeah.
See,
Yeah, it's great until you go to use the restroom the next day.
And then your poop's black.
It's like greenish black. You think that something is wrong with you because you ate Burger King. So,
Well, it's like when
Don't
you
do
drink purple soda or purple drink. It turns
Purple
your
drink.
turns your poop green. It's like purple drink has gamma radiation or something, and it turns your poop green, turns your poop into the incredible poop.
I like it. Look, kind of the same color as Eric's shirt.
A little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about David Cronenberg's Shivers, and I kind of want to start with Jason because he doesn't seem to have a very nice look on his face when it comes to talking about this movie. So, Jason, what was your first impression of David Cronenberg's Shivers?
Man, let's just say this. It took me 2 days to finish it.
Wow.
2 watches. I made it through 45 minutes and I was like, it's slow. Because it's slow, Eric.
It's not slow. It's 97 minutes.
Yeah, and it's slow.
In the first, in one of the first scenes of the film, you have an old man attack a young woman, kill her, and then perform surgery on her.
And that's it. And then it goes.
And then kill himself.
Then after that, it's like,
oh my God.
I don't know. After watching this movie, I have a little less respect for David Cronenberg. So,
Well, man, I mean, you kind of have to, just like every filmmaker, you have to start somewhere. You know, John Carpenter, who we all love and respect here, Dark Star is not the greatest movie in the world.
It's superior to this.
I don't know, man. Have you fucking seen Dark Star? Dark Star doesn't make much sense. This actually has a cohesive story and a social commentary.
All right. Well, this is the thing. I think if you take the majority of the shocking images out of this movie, because I think he put them into the movie to make it a horror movie, the movie is nothing.
It's probably nothing at all.
There's no story.
They're keeping you up? You're bored, right?
The whole thing with all the rape and everything in the whole movie is what makes it a horror movie, because that's a horrifying image to see. And not only that, that's the problem I have with it, is we're using rape as the horror, you know, thing to make you feel like, oh my God, this is horrible.
Oh, good heavens. Look.
And I think that takes me out of the movie, because I have a problem with seeing that in movies anyway. Yeah, you see some body horror, like with the stuff in the stomach, and then the slugs jumping out of their mouth that basically looks like a sponge that's painted brown. Horrible special effects to begin with.
You heard the budget, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But you take all the physical horror, which is everybody running each other down and raping women. You got men raping women, women raping men, women raping women, and men raping men.
Yeah. Don't forget children.
And children. We got incest in this movie. We got pedophilia in this movie.
Even before the parasites, you have pedophilia.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, after watching the movie, I mean, it took me 2 times to get through it. I mean, it's hard to stomach, but I know that's what he did in order to make you feel uneasy watching this movie. And to me, that took me out of the movie. I mean, because my Cronenberg days are like Videodrome, The Fly, and so on throughout his older career, the 80s and all like that. And I love those movies because he's scaring you with the visuals and the ooey gooiness and the story.
But doesn't Videodrome have these like kind of awful rapey snuff film type scenes as well?
But,
I mean,
but it's worked in. But the premise of this whole movie is rape.
I'll agree with you. First of all, that I don't like rape scenes in movies. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. Movies that are like heavy with that stuff. It's hard to watch. I'm definitely with you on that. But I think that it is saying something, and I don't think that it's I don't think it's devoid of meaning. And I think that it's a theme that Cronenberg obviously likes to touch on.
He likes to touch
the idea of like you said, the primal instincts, sexual instincts. I gotta disagree. I didn't feel like it was slow. I felt like The Howling was slower than this, personally. This thing keeps moving for me for the most part. I like the single location. And that's obviously kind of partially due to the budget, but I like the fact that they're kind of isolated in this place, and I like the lead. I like the doctor.
Okay, that's where I'll go ahead and interject. I think Dr. St. Luke is the worst fucking actor in this movie.
What?
I think he's awful.
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, compare this to Scanners. He's a better lead than Scanners.
I don't know, man.
No, he is. He is, dude.
This dude is a poor man's fucking Warren Beatty. Like, he is bad.
Wow, really? I did not get that.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I like that.
I thought he was kind of funny. Like, he was a little bit like disconnected in a way that kind of I thought was almost, there's like a weird sense of humor to Cronenberg's movies,
right?
And I felt like he kind of existed in that area. But that's interesting. I mean, I think the lead. Maybe I need to rewatch Scanners, but dude,
the lead in Scanners is pretty bad as well. But
they're both bad. Yeah.
Good God, that dude sucks.
That's me, isn't it?
But I think, if you look at this movie through and through, I mean, I'm the one who's seen this more than the two of you at this point. So, like, it's obvious this is a Cronenberg movie. The themes that Cronenberg goes for are all here. It's just fairly obvious that he didn't have a budget to work with here and was still kind of getting his feet wet in filmmaking.
I felt ultimately that I would have to learn on the job, and that was the John Dunning and Andre Link School of Filmmaking. They were my film school. I mean, I remember my first production meeting, sitting around a table with all of these people who John had placed around me because they were all more experienced than I was, and that was his technique. Was, okay, I've got a first-time film director basically. I will surround him with people who are not first-time crew and heads of department, and they will help him make the movie, and they'll show him how to make the movie, and that's exactly what happened.
And I think that is really kind of what makes the movie suffer, is it's someone learning to be a filmmaker, because the shots here, like the cinematography is uninspired. There's not a whole lot of diversity in the shots that are going on. They try to do some weird jump cuts at certain times to sort of like remind you of who certain people are in this movie.
Dude, the slow motion for no reason.
Yeah, that's a big thing with first-time filmmakers, is they'll use slow-mo to, like fill their time.
Yeah.
But watching this movie a few times, like I do like this movie. I don't think it's anywhere near the upper echelon of David Cronenberg's work by any means.
No.
But if I was going to rewatch anything, this would definitely not be at the top of my list either. But I can respect this movie for what it is and where, how we got the David Cronenberg we know and love now from here and Rabid and so on and so forth. At the time, I think the movie was probably speaking on some social issues with sexuality, LGBTQ stuff back in those days. Like, I think there's a lot of social commentary in this movie. So therefore, I don't think it's devoid and pointless and like doesn't have anything going on. Like, I think there's plenty going on in this movie. If you read a little bit deeper than,
I don't know. I think because he also wrote this movie. He didn't just direct it. He wrote it.
Right.
And I mean, and he wrote it to be this way. So he wrote it and he envisioned how it's going to come out. And that's my point, is it's almost like it was like the easy way out to make a horror movie compared to David Cronenberg's other works. I think they're more thought out. I know, 179,000 Canadian is not a budget to make, the slugs look good or the, I do like the bladder work on Nick's stomach when he's talking to his parasites. That's pretty cool. Attaboy, you're doing a good job right down there. And I'm just like, and that's kind of funny. But I mean, you get also the, like I said, the whole thing of the premise after a certain part of the movie literally becomes nothing but a sexual assault for the rest of the movie.
I gotta disagree. I think that this movie has more to say than something like The Howling does. I mean, you can say, oh, take the werewolves out of The Howling, and what is it? I mean, take the whole point out of the film, and what is it? Yeah, it doesn't have a point. I don't know. It's a weird, it's looking at sexuality. It's looking at humans as animals, and questioning our morality, questioning our, what's right, what's wrong. It's I don't know. I think there's enough there. And again, like we've said, it's a low budget first feature film.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be rough around the edges, and it is. Obviously the effects aren't excellent, but I think there's some imagery in this movie that will probably stick with me. And that's I think where you see where Cronenberg will go in the future, because he's able to create imagery that will melt into your mind a little bit. Mm-hmm. We start off in the beginning and you've got this surgery scene with this guy, and he's got this young girl that he's just killed, and he's cutting her open and
pouring acid into her stomach.
Yeah, that shot, just that image is like, woo, like that's, you don't know what's going on at this point. You don't know why they're doing this. You don't know why he's doing this. You don't know why he kills himself after he doesn't find anything.
And it's intercut with this this new couple coming into this building thinking, they could come in here and get a new apartment and it'll be the apartment of their dreams and they're going to love it here and all the amenities they're going to have at this place.
The film opens with that presentation, the slideshow presentation of how great this place is, which is a great way to set the scene.
Yes, it's true. Day-to-day living becomes a luxury cruise when you've made your home at Starliner Tower Apartments.
To the Starliner.
Yeah, you get to from Starco, right? Isn't it Starco? But you get this luxury, live here worry free with this da 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 da.
They have their own doctors, their own dentists.
Yeah, they're self-sufficient.
But then you realize there's a reason why they're that way.
Right, and it kind of another movie that does something similar is the Belko Experiment. But yeah, I mean, it's an abrupt way to start this movie for sure, because it starts off fairly tame until you get to this guy breaking into this room with a Catholic schoolgirl. And I mean, I was kind of having a little bit of trouble discerning whether it was a girl or a boy at first, but still, it's a young person being attacked by an older person. Yeah. So therefore, it's unease and it's intercut with this couple coming in, and it just makes everything seem like you're thrown right in. That's one of the biggest things I have a problem with this movie is there's no character development for anybody in this movie other than the doctor that kills himself, basically.
This is true. You're right. But it's also like full on genre film.
Right.
These movies don't typically delve too deep into character development, but I don't know. It's like a slice of society, and it's kind of just looking at humanity. I don't know. So many of his movies do this, right? They just kind of look at like, what is humanity? What drives us? Is it money? Is it sex? It's usually sex. It's, and this theme sets the tone for so many movies that he ends up doing. And, from that perspective, I find it interesting. But I was taken in. I thought, okay, we've got this location. I thought those first people would be more involved in the movie.
Yeah, I thought I was waiting for them to be the primary couple, and they're not.
Right. Hobbs does this. To me, that was enough to keep me interested. I was like, okay, why did he do this? Yeah. Is he a bad guy? Is he a good guy? On first watch, for me, it was like, okay, he seemed to be after something. I know this movie has weird worms on the front. He's certainly looking for worms in her. He doesn't find them, or maybe he does find them and he's got them in him. So I don't know what, but he takes himself out. That was enough for me to be interested. Like, I wanted to know what the deal was.
Well, it brings me to my first question. Do either of you think that you could physically slit your own throat like he does?
Oof. Especially shoved a scalpel in there.
Yeah. Not that slowly.
And
right.
It'd have to be a quick one.
Right.
Yeah, it'd be more like a done, but
your physical, like your own human restraint,
your body would not let you.
Yeah, would stop you from doing this to yourself. Is the first thing I thought when I saw him doing it. And again, I'm confused as to what's going on. You don't get a whole lot of explanation, and then you're introduced to Nick, who I'm going to refer to as Nick the Dick throughout the rest of this conversation.
Yes. I'm good with that. Good with that.
This guy is such a dick.
Well, he's already infected by the time we meet him. He did cheat on his wife before this. That's how he got the thing in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, basically, no. Let me take it back for that. No, every man in this fucking building slept with Annabelle.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were running a train on Annabelle or something, because every man shows up with the lumps in their stomach. And I'm not talking like Nick, he's his mid-20s, early 30s. No, we even got the older man that shows up with him.
Well, she had some just like them, right here near her belly button. I thought it was kind of sexy myself.
Everybody was sleeping with Annabelle, but the thing is, because the parasite makes you, so she was basically seducing these men and passing along the worm.
Exactly, and Annabelle is a victim in this. We learn from the other doctor that
she's a guinea pig.
How did Hobbs know this girl? Who is she? I mean, what is she?
Some chick he met while he was lecturing at a girls' school. They caught him examining her titties for breast cancer. She was 12 years old.
One of the most disturbing parts of it was this Dr. Linsky saying, oh, I can't believe what he did to her. Like, almost like, well, shit, man, why didn't you do something about it? Like,
right.
Are you kidding me? Like, you knew this guy was doing it, and you're just like, wow, that's terrible. Oh, well, like, that's the biggest, like, the dismissiveness of the pedophilia is probably the biggest, like, yucky out of all this. And there's lots of yucky in here, but that's the part that rubbed me the wrong way. I wanted Dr. Linsky to like find this out later, not go, oh, by the way, he molested this girl. It's kind of a gross thing. I never agreed with it.
He's
moving
like
on.
so nonchalant with all of it, and it's just
It's just like, what?
And plus, that dude has such a bassy voice. Like listening to that guy talk.
That's what he's known for. They said that that one time he had the lowest voice in radio and TV. They called it. He had a nickname.
Joe
for him.
Silver. You're talking about?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they said like that's what he was known for, was having the bass in his voice. Get your bass out of your voice, boy.
And a lot of these actors actually show up in more Cronenberg movies going forward. Like he's in Rabid.
He's in Rabid.
The girl that lives in the apartment with the bear rug and everything, that's talking to Mrs. Tudor Betts. She's in Rabid as well. And then there's a couple more people that end up in that movie as well. And I haven't seen The Brood in a while, but I think some more people show up in that one as well. So yeah, I mean, you're introduced to Nick by the fact that he's a dick to his wife, and then he goes straight upstairs to see Annabelle and finds her dead. And you know, that's another thing that you start to develop the story is obviously he was cheating on his wife with this girl, and he leaves because he's afraid to get, you know, he doesn't want to have any connection to the girl, and B, the murder that's happened in this apartment. But this guy is another, like, his performance in this movie is so wooden and just like, he's tough to watch.
Hey,
and,
he's infected by a parasite, man. You can't judge his acting.
Yeah, but
you don't know how a parasite guy would act.
But the old man that's infected with the parasite is fucking hilarious in the doctor's
Dude,
office.
he's laying game on the nurse too.
Right.
Maybe he's
trying to take her home.
He loves his mega vitamins.
Megavitamins.
I loved that. Yeah,
he's taking the
his
Centrum
spiel.
Silver and the blue pill at the same time.
Yeah, I loved his whole spiel he was giving to just anybody that would listen about his mega vitamins. That was pretty funny.
Well, I think was it the first time we really get a sense of like the whole what's inside of them is when we see Nick puke into the sink. I mean, into the tub, which I don't fucking get. If you're gonna puke, you puke in the toilet. Don't puke in your fucking bathtub.
Jason, this man is infected by an experimental parasite. You can't judge his logic.
And I'm sorry, if anybody out there has ever had food poisoning, it comes out both ends, so you got to go in the bathtub and toilet. So.
Now, yeah, I have done that. You turn sideways on the toilet and puke into the bathtub. If you have to, that's what you got to do. But the fact
Not
that
me, I shit in the bathtub and puke in the toilet. Don't tell me what to do.
He sits in the sink, shits in the sink, and pukes across the room into the bathtub. Don't mind the stuff in the middle. It's okay. Yeah. Get the Swiffer. Clean that right up. But when he goes to the balcony, and this is where you get a little interjected humor, when he coughs it up, and then the old lady with the umbrella, oh, it's such a nice afternoon. We're walking. Oh, no, this must have been a birdie.
Yeah.
And then you see
what is the point of that umbrella? It's not a parasol for the sun. It's not raining. So why is she holding it?
Who knows?
I don't know.
It's an old lady with an umbrella.
It's just there for the gag.
You get your typical Cronenbergisms here, especially with the explanation that Dr. Linsky gives to Dr. Saint Luke.
You got man, right? And you got parasites that live in, on, and around man, right? Why not breed a parasite that can do something useful? Huh? A parasite that can take over the function of a human organ.
Yeah, you have this in Rabbit as well, like you said, where science goes too far. You know, same with The Fly. You know, science bites you in the ass. You start messing with things, you try to play God, whatever, and it comes back and it's bad.
And ultimately, I think that's really like all of that's there in this movie, but unfortunately, with this movie being a first feature and a low budget, I think we hear about this more than we see it in this movie, and that's one reason this movie suffers. Because when we do see what's actually happening with these parasites, you know, the makeup's lackluster. There's not very good work with the slugs or whatever you want to call them in this movie. And so I think that's ultimately what
I don't remember these complaints in Night of the Creeps, and it looks just as bad, if not. I would argue that there are areas in Night of the Creeps that look worse than this.
I don't know.
I don't think you watched the same damn movie, dude.
I did.
You need to stop drinking the Yingling. You need to cut back.
Listen, dude. There's shit in Night of the Creeps that looks just as rubbery and shitty as this. And it has a way bigger budget and was made far more recently. Not far more recently, but more recently. And I think you guys are being a little hard on this movie, considering its budget and its time. And I like the effects to me are pretty good in this movie, considering those factors. And they didn't really bother me. Like the effects, like I'm like, I know where I am in time and money, and it doesn't bother me. I don't know.
Well, the biggest thing that gets me is, like, I guess you would call it the puppet work for these things in this is very lackluster.
They don't look great. I agree. But
but when you're dealing with the body horror aspect of it all, like the movements in the stomach,
that looks okay.
When they're spitting the things out, like when him and the wife are laying on the bed and it starts coming out of his mouth, like all of that stuff looks cool. Like, I mean,
it does. It does.
But it's every time you get something with one of these individual whatever parasites, like especially the biggest scene that gets me is the bathtub with
Bathtub.
beds.
I was gonna say. And
Like,
they even make it look phallic on the end.
Yeah. And
that's, I'm sure, by design, in the same way that aliens look like dick aliens in Alien. So, let's just keep it real here. This is about sex. They look like weird little turd penises. And
turd penises. I like that. That's what it is.
Just, I mean,
that's a good description of the movie.
Yeah, they have like
penises.
weird little penis heads on the front. It's icky. It's supposed to be icky. And this movie's icky. And I don't know, dude. It's weird. I don't know why this clicked with me in a way that it's clearly hasn't with you guys.
Because you're a movie snob, Eric.
I'm a movie snob.
movie douchebag. We called you, I think.
No.
If anything, you guys are movie douchebags. I'm being more forgiving of this film.
Yeah, you're probably right.
You're the douchebags, not me. Thank
or
you.
are you just playing on a thing that people, talk about? Well, if you like Cronenberg, you're not a Cronenbergian unless you watch his earlier works and love them. So are you playing it that douchebag way? Because I'm saying I like the movies because I like Cronenberg movies, not because people say I need to watch this movie and to enjoy the rest of them.
Oh, we're back to the fucking, what's his name? The Giallo guy. What's his name? Fucking Argento argument again.
Yes. So
listen, man, I just try to watch things and have my opinion. I don't let people push me in one direction or the other, or at least I try not to. But what's important is there's two things. You can let people influence your opinion positively, but don't let people influence your opinion negatively. Don't let the fact that I don't know, is this movie held in high regard?
This movie received a scathing review in one of Canada's newspapers or something.
Famously, Robert Fulford, writing as Marshall Delaney for Saturday Night Magazine, had really crucified Shivers. He on the cover of Saturday Night Magazine had said, "You should know how bad this movie is. You paid for it," meaning the taxpayers and television. Of course, by the time that article came out, we'd already repaid the taxpayers and given them a profit. He didn't seem to mention that. And they were afraid to invest in my next movie, which was Rabid, which was also a horror film. I don't think at that point we had cast Marilyn Chambers, the porno queen, but that would have made them even more nervous. So it actually cost me a couple of years of my filmmaking life, that article by Fulford. Telefilm was afraid to invest in my film. And until Cinepix figured out a way to kind of put three movies together as a package and kind of bury Rabid in that, they couldn't really finance the film, even though we were all ready to go with it. So making Shivers and Rabid the way that they were made gave me incredible strength and endurance and understanding about filmmaking in general.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it. You know who the producer on this was?
Ivan Reitman.
Ivan Reitman, Mr. Ghostbusters himself.
Yes, yes. I just wanted to say, just because I looked it up, The Howling is a 6.5. This is IMDb ratings, which of course, take that for what it's worth.
Yeah,
but
it's like a Rotten Tomato type thing.
6.5 out of 10. Shivers 6.4.
Eh.
I just don't feel like The Howling is operating on a much higher level than this.
I can agree with that. I mean, it's definitely, The Howling's not saying anything like super important or anything like.
But that's the point. It's not supposed to. It's just supposed to be a monster movie.
So do you think this thing is not as good because it's trying to say something and it doesn't do it well enough for you? Is that what you're saying? I'm curious. Do you think it's trying to say anything at all? Or do you think it should?
Like what I'm saying, I think he wanted to make a horror movie and then try to interject something and then like took the easy way out. What's the easy way to make people not want to look at the screen? Let's just put rape all over it.
Okay. But The Howling starts with like a weird rape video.
Yeah, but that's not the premise of the whole movie. This whole movie is, like I said, it should be called Rapies. So it's a monster movie.
I mean, okay, let's go ahead and get this out of here. Like, yes, rape is a part of the plot of this movie. It's how these people, become these parasite-infected zombies or rapies or whatever you want to call them.
But this is a zombie movie, right?
Right.
Do you guys think this is a zombie movie?
No, it's kind of a zombie movie. It's kind of a zombie movie in the way like Slither is. Like, it's more of a hive mind sort of thing.
It's Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has more. Right. It has more to do with that sort of thing than a quote unquote zombie movie. There is a zombie element to it.
At the end of this movie, this building is
Night of the Living
crawling
Dead.
with people, mindless people that are attacking you, not to eat your brains. They want to fuck your brains out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're there for. Not to eat your brains.
We want to fuck your brains. I want to fuck you with my mind slug.
I think this is in a way a zombie movie, and I think it plays out that way. I think you've got the doctor kind of trying to figure out how this is spreading, realizing he can't contain it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a zombie movie to me, dude. The Howling is a vampire movie. So
well,
and the Lost Boys is just Peter Pan. So
if you take all the vampire stuff out of the Lost Boys, what is it?
So
Anyways,
moving on. I think the most important person in here is the woman in the laundry room, because who the fuck keeps their laundry soap in their bra? Or, I mean, if you're a guy, do you shove it in your shorts? Say, let me get my laundry soap out.
The one thing that was one thing, and then the weirder part was after she fell down, more bags fell out of her clothes.
Right.
So she had multiple rounds of laundry soap in there.
She might have had 4 loads of laundry to do. She separates. Back then, you didn't have the detergents we have. You had to separate all your colors from your whites and your towels.
She was going to open that other laundry machine, so I mean, she probably had another load she was going to do.
Yeah. And then she got a dick slug in the mouth. So,
all right.
Almost Famous.
I know that, dude.
I don't know them. I know her.
Haven't you ever heard of that guy? What's his name?
That guy who was in that movie that was out last year.
I'm sort of famous for being almost famous.
All right, Almost Famous is where we highlight those people in the background of the movie, and we've seen them somewhere before. We just don't quite know where. I didn't have anybody for this one, so Jason said he's got a couple. Jason?
Well, the one that I had, like I said, it might be not from just like seeing him and being famous, but what he went on to do. I actually did before this and after. Was the Roger St. Luke character played by Paul Hampton. He was actually in Waxwork 2.
He was a musician, right? I think he was a musician.
Yeah, he was actually a songwriter, was an ASCAP or whatever how you say that, award winner, and he wrote songs that were performed by Elvis, Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, and Bette Midler.
Wow.
So the man definitely was well known in the music business.
Yeah, more impressive than his acting career.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and there was a lot more big names in his list.
I can't believe you guys didn't like this guy. I thought he was funny.
I thought he was terrible.
I love Josh's description of poor man's Warren Beatty. That's good.
I thought he was kind of deadpan and kind of funny. I liked when the nurse was trying to kiss him and he's just like in deep thought about what's going on, and he's just like not interested at all.
Were you talking?
I truly got that, like, this dude has never acted a day in his life from his performance in this movie. Like, he just did not do anything that made me think he was an actor.
This guy can act circles around the dude from Scanners. What's that dude's name? Jesus, I can't think of his name.
Did y'all have anybody you wrote down for this? I wrote 3 names.
I had just watched Black Sunday
with Barbara Steele.
Barbara Steele a few days ago. So I'm gonna just throw out Barbara Steele. It was fun seeing her after watching that. And I thought she was good in this.
She was in The Pit and the Pendulum, 1961. She in Britain, she's known as Britain's first lady of horror.
Did you guys know that in the bathtub scene, she had a leg double? Oddly enough,
that's another really weird cut scene. Like, the editing in that scene is really weird, and you could tell like she was probably not comfortable with nudity, but you can see her full topless in the end, basically. But
yeah, she's got the wet t-shirt at the end. But she required a leg double in the tub scene.
Yeah, at the end, did they shoot that shot at the pool at Club La Vila?
It's just a regular night.
What Spring Break looks like at Club
That's
La
a
Vila.
regular night at Club La Vila.
I mean, even when everybody jumps in the pool butt naked, they're like, damn, this is like, Spring Break 1999, Panama City Beach.
Side note, that in that scene, some of the people were just stage people.
Yeah.
Just took off all their clothes and jumped in the pool just for the scene, and it made it into the film, which is kind of fun. Small production. Everyone just decides to just be part of the scene and hop in. And
they're like, man, let's jump in the fucking pool.
Down.
Right.
So there's just random, random people that worked on set that
was the rap party. They just rolled camera on the fucking rap party. All they did.
Last shot. Let's go, everybody. I like that because they set up the pool in the beginning, and you kind of end at the pool. So that's
it's kind of got that sort of Halloween thing. Like, they show you all these different spots of the building in the beginning, and you end up in those spots at some point throughout the movie.
I love single location movies, so this gains points for me just being in one spot.
I also thought about Wreck with this movie.
Oh yeah.
Single location. That one's from first person point of view and whatnot, but they do a couple of shots in this that are like first person.
There is a part where Nurse Forsyth is running down, and it is literally like Resident Evil first person shooter looking, running down the stairs, like the way it pans across.
Man, there's some POV stuff in Black Sunday that was pretty cool, actually.
Well, because I didn't really have a whole lot of Almost Famous, do you guys have anybody else you want to talk about as far as Almost Famous goes?
No,
that's really it.
Well, I thought of some characters that could be recast with some more modern actors here. So I was like, well, let's do a recast. This could be fun. So I've already blown my choice for Dr. St. Luke. I obviously would cast Warren Beatty, because Warren Beatty would do a whole lot better than this wannabe Warren Beatty.
Yeah. There we go.
Nurse Forsyth, I was seeing Olivia Wilde in her.
I could see that.
Yeah, definitely.
And then
icy eyes, icy stare.
Especially like the scene in the pool at the end where she's just staring him down. Like Olivia Wilde has those eyes that are just sort of like mesmerizing.
I liked Lynn Lowry is her name, Nurse Forsyth. I thought she was one of the better actresses in this movie, and I liked her look.
When I was, doing these films in the 70s, mostly the women were, brutally attacked, murdered, all that stuff. So, to do a role where a woman, makes it to the end, even though she's got the parasite and she's the bad guy, still it was nice to have that kind of turnaround in the film, and it was fun, to do that and to have that kind of strength and, power to do that. I loved it.
And it's kind of a surprise when you see her. She's the nurse on call at this office and whatnot, and then you're just sort of thrown into the fact that they're in a relationship together, because she's like, will you give me a kiss now? Like, they're professionals. When they're not on the clock, it's time to let loose,
And you can't tell if she's horny because she's got a parasite in her, or if she's horny, just normal horniness, which I think kind of fits with the whole thing. Like, this is, in us kind of a thing.
Right.
It's in us, even if it's not, if you don't have the parasite, it's still in you, this sort of urge. But go ahead.
The laundry lady, the lady who dies in the laundry room or gets, the parasite in the laundry room, Melissa McCarthy.
And I'm glad your husband died. Because you're a fucking asshole. He probably killed himself.
That's good.
Like that seems like one of those like low key bit roles that Melissa McCarthy does so well. She's just in it for a minute to do some crazy shit and make you laugh at the situation. I think that would have been a perfect casting there. And then Nick, I have you I don't know if you guys are going to know the name, but you definitely know the actor. I said David Dalsmalchian. He's the guy who played Polka Dot Man in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And he was in The Dark Knight. He was in Dune. He's been in all kinds of shit. He is a fucking almost famous actor.
Yeah.
Like,
Wasn't he an Ant-Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an Ant-Man.
He's one of the guys in Ant-Man. Yep.
He's a part of the crew. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, do you got any more, Josh?
No, he wasn't my original choice for Nick. My original choice for Nick was Adrian Brody. He has that kind of like bone structure-y face.
There you go.
I've got a Nick.
Okay.
David Schwimmer.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm just picking another Jewish person.
Well, no, it's just that you're picking another dick because Ross was a fucking douchebag.
You people and your
He's
friends.
got the kind of Schwimmer, like, pouty look,
Yeah.
He's kind of like, just looks like a sad sack of shit. You know what I mean?
That's a perfect description of David Schwimmer's Ross on Friends. Ross is by far the worst fucking character on Friends, and I will die on that hill. But no, that's all I have for recast. That's really all I could think of. I was trying to get somebody that would be good for the Miss Tudor, Nick's wife, but I couldn't really think of anybody.
I got a list.
Oh, Jason's got a list.
Well, you know me. Every time you do these, I come up with a theme.
All right, what
for
theme is it?
recast.
Is it the DC actors this time? Is it a Pixar casting? That would be a weird one.
Yeah, I went with the 1990s A-listers. If they remade this movie with a budget, Dr. St. Luke would have been Leo DiCaprio. Have a better actor.
Can see that. I can see that.
Dr. Lindsay would have been Tom Hanks.
Oh, wow.
Dr. Hobbs, Cunningham would have been Anthony Hopkins.
That would have been fitting.
Hobskins.
Yeah. Annabelle would have been Uma Thurman. Betts is Demi Moore because, Betts is pretty fucking hot in this movie. She's definitely super sexual. And I'm thinking back in the day, I had the hots for Demi Moore. So,
okay.
And then for Janine, which is Miss Tudor, which also eventually makes out with Demi Moore, I went with Sharon Stone because I would like to see that. So
I would like to see.
I did think about having Mila Kunis as Betts.
Yes, that too. I was even thinking
Betts
Selma
like,
Hayek.
Betts is like an older, like
she's the cougar in the
she's
building.
cougar, exactly.
Yeah,
she's a cougar.
cougar.
So I guess you mean Mila Kunis now.
Yeah,
Mila
Kunis.
Kunis.
Has Mila Kunis entered cougar territory at this point?
She's got to be.
She's got a couple of kids. She's in her 40s now. I mean, I guess it kind of works.
Fair enough, you guys.
Nurse Forsyth. I was just thinking somebody could work good with Leo. I put Sandra Bullock.
That's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something. I don't know. Hey, dude, I went with the A list of the 90s. There actually wasn't a lot of them because a lot of them were in the movies over and over again. Okay. My Nick, I'm just thinking him laying in bed when he's talking to his parasites. A little funny. Super hairy guy. Robin Williams. And I can hear him doing his voice like, oh, had a boy. You're pretty good down there. And then he's doing different voices for each parasite that pops up. And he's I could just totally see that.
And one of them's Genie from Aladdin.
Yeah, one of them's Genie from Aladdin, over here. Yeah.
I think Eric was on the right track. We should just recast the whole movie with the Friends characters and see
go.
where we can get.
Well, I really think Janine inspired what's her name, Rachel's look of the shirt with no bra look.
True.
So
There's not a bra in sight in this
No.
movie.
it's the 70s, dude.
This was
And we're-
75.
And we're doing super sexual.
Yeah,
So
75's version of Free the Nipple here, man. There's no bras in this movie.
They didn't have a budget for bras in this movie.
Yeah,
there
no
was,
budget
just
for
wasn't a bra
bras.
budget. Okay, just blame the budget.
No, David Cronenberg wanted to shock people so much that he was like, "There are no bras allowed on this set."
He pulled a George Lucas. There are no bras in space. There are no bras in this movie.
The primary story continues in I think the main focus of this movie obviously is Dr. St. Luke, and then there's Nick's character and his wife and whatnot. That's our main two storylines. You know, she can tell that there's something wrong with him. She, you know, that's how kind of everything kicks into gear here. Is she goes to St. Luke wanting him to come look at this.
He never does. St. Luke never actually makes it there. Or wait, does he?
No, he never sees Nick.
No, he does. He finds him later and kills him.
Right.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that's the one he. That's right.
But at
Yeah,
this
yeah,
point,
yeah.
he hasn't shown up. You think he's going to, but he's got his hands full with other business.
If I'm identifying with anybody other than our main protagonist in Dr. St. Luke, it's Nick and his wife, and the scenes with them together in the apartment are really uncomfortable, especially when he starts going into the "you're my wife, make love to me" and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that stuff is not that stuff is, touching on something that's real.
Yeah.
That women still deal with today is men thinking that when they want it, they should get it.
Right.
You're my wife. Yeah.
Right. And it's weird watching a movie from 75 because even with everything that's going on, and she makes the excuse to go put her contacts in, she actually goes to the bathroom and goes to put her contacts in. She doesn't know what to do because she thinks that she's supposed to do what he says. I think there's a generational thing happening here where we're watching it now and it's not clicking.
I mean, she even comes back to bed after she says she's going to put her contacts in.
Right.
And that's
She
when we
has
get
her
that
chance to
shot.
escape. Yeah. She has her. We're thinking she's using that to escape, but
No,
she comes back.
Yeah.
It's her husband. Not that a woman should do whatever her husband says, but I think she's worried about him to a degree. She, wants to know what's wrong with him and why he's acting this way. But I think that Cronenberg's trying to say something about men and women and expectations and that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, she's worried about him just because of the conversation she's having with Betts earlier in the movie, and
the doctor. She's been worried about him the whole time. Yeah. She loves him. I mean, by all accounts, she thinks he's a good man. So,
and I think that's why I am so attached to them in this movie, because that's the most character development we get in the movie for any of the characters. Is we hear about what's going on with them and his, we don't know. She doesn't know that he's been has this infidelity. Or at least we're not led to believe that she knows that there's been this infidelity going on. No. But yeah, I mean, it is pretty funny when you start finding out how many people have been tapping Annabelle throughout in this building.
Yeah. No matter the age either. She didn't hold back.
You know what's funny? Well, age, relation, gender, none of it matters. When you have this parasite in you, nothing matters.
Right.
But it's interesting that we do learn that Hobbs actually planned for this.
Yes.
So that's where I get confused about him taking himself out. That seemed to me like when we saw it, like it was a regret. It was I've made a mistake. I need to. But
he's like, I want to get out of this shit.
But in his notes that we learned from Dr. Linsky or whatever, that was his plan to create like a worldwide orgy.
Here, a combination of aphrodisiac and venereal disease that will hopefully turn the world into one beautiful, mindless orgy.
Maybe he didn't expect it to get out of hand. Maybe he didn't expect her to
Yeah,
sleep
maybe
with
he
all
had
these
he
guys.
changed his mind. I don't know.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing. Like, he dies before we're able to get any information from him other than all the notes or whatever that Dr. Linsky has. That's the other thing too, is there's all this exposition that's dumped on us from Linsky in this movie. Like, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't know what the hell's going on in the movie at all.
Well, I think he undersells the severity of the situation to St. Luke. He's like, this might be hard to contain if you might want to get a handle on this. This could be difficult. It's like, no, this is going to sweep the planet if you don't isolate this shit right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was too busy drinking Cokes and snacking on fucking snacks.
Eating pickles, dude. This guy was eating pickles.
Pickles
and in a
Coke,
movie
man.
like this, everything's a dick, right? I mean, pickle's a dick. I don't know. I can't see anything but if anything's phallic, it's a dick. I don't,
Dick pickle.
If there's a flower, it's a vagina. Like, you just have, like, your brain just goes only to sexual imagery at this point. But Linsky is chomping on a pickle like every time you see him. This man loves pickles.
Hey, how about the pickle? It's used.
Talk about Cronenberg humor. That's a spot in this movie where I'm like, what kind of humor were they going for there when he's like, hey, the pickle? It's like you saw him eating the pickle throughout the entire conversation. Like,
the movie is about sexually transmitted diseases, and you're talking about a dirty pickle. I mean, this is just, I just don't think that it's a mistake. I don't think that it's the coincidence that you've got a dirty pickle going on. Everybody's got a dirty pickle in this movie.
Here, now Hobbes believed that man is an animal that thinks too much, an over-rational animal that's lost touch with its body and its instincts. How do you like that? In other words, too much brain and not enough guts.
Because I think that is an important line in the movie that kind of outlines comparing a venereal disease to humanity and just saying they're not that different from each other. It's just interesting, and it's weird, and it's gross.
It's the Mr. Smith theory.
Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague, and we are the cure.
Obviously, Forsyth and Dr. St. Luke are a thing. We're seeing that he's supposed to be going to her place for dinner after he goes to see Nick and all that shit. This guy shows up to her door and tries to kiss her. She runs away and goes to St. Luke. And that's when all this really starts to kick off. At what point did Forsyth get a parasite in her?
It's when the guy in the garage, and he got the guard. Remember, they got the guard earlier. Which I wanted to talk about that little segment real quick. Was
apple pie guy.
No, yeah, I called it a crepe because they are in Canada. I was like, is that a crepe? He's carrying in his
or
hand.
It's like a cherry pie, not apple pie. It's like a cherry pie.
But that elevator opens, and he's like,
yeah, that is a weird fucking scene, dude.
But the door closes, and this is, talking about weird, disturbing stuff. And then when it opens, the lady's on the floor, her dress is ripped. The kid's got blood on her mouth.
Yeah.
Looks like there's blood on her thighs and legs. So it's like, did he rape her
he's
too?
Smelling her hair. He's smelling her hair, and
Yeah.
she's all about it. Yeah, that's the weird stuff. I mean, we
That's,
should just talk about all the weird kid stuff in this. You got Hobbs, and his molesting of this poor girl in the beginning, Annabelle, and then you meet these kids earlier in the thing, and they have dog collars. They've been made to be. They're just barking like animals. Like I mean, this movie is creepy on the pedophilia stuff.
Oh, then you get the one where, remember, St. Luke's running away, and he goes into the one apartment, and it's the old man. I mean, he's like in his 60s or something. He's like, don't you think my daughter's beautiful? And then he just starts making out with his daughter.
He's making out with his daughter. Super disgusting.
Like,
yeah,
whoa.
absolutely. Like, you're like, oh, to me, it's like I'm seeing David Cronenberg just fuck with people. He wants to push the envelope. He wants to say, okay, what's going to be, let's look at sexuality from like, let's tear away borders, the rules, remove all the rules, right?
Yeah.
That's what the parasite does. Take all the rules away. Doesn't matter gender, doesn't matter if it's your kid or a kid or
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Age, gender, and Is that disgusting? Absolutely. I don't think you'd see that in a movie nowadays. I think it would be too much for people to handle. But in a way, it's saying something in just a raw, disgusting way that I kind of like. I get what he's doing. I don't know. I there was something weird about it, and of course, like you said, Jason, like I hate rape scenes in movies. The scene with the dad and the daughter making out, super disgusting. But I don't know. Like I feel like he's saying something, so it isn't. What he's saying isn't that it's okay. He's asking a question. He makes you kind of question the rules. Question. I don't know. He just puts a spotlight on our morality, I guess, and where it comes from and why it's there, and that I find interesting. And he does that in other movies as well. So
the things that are done behind closed doors, and the door is now open.
Right. You're opening that Pandora's box in a sense.
Right. Right. And yeah, it's challenging and it's upsetting. And obviously, incest and pedophilia is terrible. Doesn't need to be said, but it's, I don't know, he's got the balls to go, this creature will unleash this.
Yeah.
And it's bad.
And then it starts here and continues throughout his entire career, but you get that monologue from Forsyth about how
He tells me that even old flesh is erotic flesh. That even dying is an act of eroticism. And I believe him. And we make love beautifully.
Yes, flesh.
And talk about you got to have that flesh counter up going whenever you're talking about a Cronenberg movie.
Okay, so I had an interesting thought about this. She says in her dream, an old man is like, she's having relations with an old man. Is she receiving memories from Annabelle through the parasite?
Oh, it's a hive mind thing. It is like Slither.
Well, it absolutely is the hive mind thing, because you've got all of them together in the end for the same purpose. Even with the driving away from the building at the very end of the movie, like, we're going to go out and we're going to spread this throughout the world.
Her dream was Annabelle's memory of being molested.
But I'm still confused as to where Forsyth was infected.
Okay, that's what part I was getting, because the little girl in the elevator infected the guard. Well, when she goes to leave the first time by herself, the guard gets in there with her, and he's on top of her for a while, but I don't think he actually has sex with her. But remember, they can spit it out their mouth, and I think that's where she got infected.
I agree. She's in there too long with that guy on top
way
of her.
too long. And dude, let me talk about the part where Dr. St. Luke, he pulls the gun out of the guy's holster, and then it's like 10 minutes of him. That's a nice gun. Where did you buy this? Oh, my girlfriend's being raped. Bah!
Where was this complaint during the howling?
No, remember, we agreed that it took too long, but I'm just like, your girlfriend is pretty much being
let's do
raped.
it. Let's get to it.
Yeah,
and not even time to shoot the gun. Just grab the guy and pull him off. That would have been my first instinct.
Yeah, but he pulls the gun, and then he is like,
I was worried he shot the girl through the guy, the angle that he was taking.
I thought the same thing. I was like, dude, you shot that guy. It could have went straight through him into her. Like, you're not.
Yeah.
But
talking about the yucky kid stuff. Also, we forgot the girl in the elevator goes and kisses the
kisses
the guard, and that's kind of gross, because like a young actress is like kissing a grown man is kind of yucky. The father's daughter thing, that actress could have been older.
She could have been like 20 something.
Yeah, she could be in her 20s. But that girl was definitely young, and she's kissing some weird actor.
And then the kids wearing the dog collars, that might have been a little weird too, being led around by an adult.
It was like, thank God that's all that was just
they
dog
didn't show
collars.
you anything
It's slightly
else.
Suggestive, but when I'm thinking of the kid actors, at least they're just like, okay, kids, you're gonna act like dogs on this. Okay, move on. Nick at one point basically he's feeling worse and worse. But then at one point he starts to feel better. We kind of passed this, but when he wants to get with his wife, why does he feel better all of a sudden? Like is it because they're spreading and he's gaining energy from the spread? I'm trying to understand the rules here, because he feels like shit, and then all of a sudden he's just like,
Let us fuck.
Or maybe that's the thing. The parasite was giving birth and he was so full of them, and now he's expelling them, and they're not like all packed into his abdomen.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely not a set of rules that they have in this movie as far as that stuff goes. Yeah, it's weird, but I always just kind of took that as, this thing's sexual in nature, and he just wants to procreate this thing. So therefore,
I mean, the guy couldn't move for most of the movie. I mean, he was in bad shape. So it just was weird that he suddenly felt better. I thought maybe it was, I'm looking for answers here, but I thought maybe as his parrot, like he's talking about the hive mind, like as he his offspring start to connect with people, it gives him maybe strength or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. But dude, you were talking about when St. Luke rescues his girlfriend and they're driving around, and remember they're trying to get out, and then the one guy rams them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's dead.
Yeah.
That car is crushed, dude. Her neck is broke. Everything.
Dude, that was a great car crash.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah, 70s movies. I love when 70s movies do a car crash, because you're like, ugh. Like, it's like it's like, ugh.
Mangled.
This is like
metal.
the tiniest car. You think of movies like nowadays, and yes, they do real car crashes nowadays, but something about like 70s cars that are like solid steel crashing into each other, like,
and he hits
it
her
is
hard
effective.
as
It's
fuck,
effective
dude.
as shit. And you're like, oh, that stunt driver is in there. These people are not following safety precautions at all. This is the Wild West of filmmaking. This shit looks gnarly when it happens.
Dude.
Paul was supposed to like come forward with the car and just like bump it a little bit, That scene where we looked like we actually got whiplash because Paul like slammed it into the thing, and we're like, really, really, jumped.
The whole scene of him getting Forsyth out of the car,
just dragging her out. I'm like, dude, what about a spinal injury?
There's a couple of things in this movie that happen like that I'm like, whoa, like you can tell it's just like amateur hour stuff. And that's one of them. The other is in the beginning when he's putting Annabelle on the table and he knocks all the stuff down. There's a glass of milk still sitting on the table, and he like flails her head right on it. And I was like, oh man, the actress probably has a fucking headache after that.
This is one take business. We got one take going on. You do it. Okay, you fucked it up. Who cares? Let's go. Keep going.
You're speaking of him after Forsyth, or after he rescues her. They're going up the stairs, and she's half on. No, it's when she makes the move on him.
Yeah,
and he knocks her out. And you can see her putting her hand out every now and then as they go up the steps.
Dude,
like, I don't want to fall down.
I laughed my ass off when he sees that thing coming out of her mouth, and he just like, cold cocks her, knocks her out immediately. Like,
I love the reveal that she's infected, and that shot of her with it coming out of her mouth.
That's talking about imagery from Cronenberg. That's another great shot. I really love the shot after he wraps the thing around her mouth so that it can't get out, and all the blood is coming out of it, so her mouth is gagged and there's blood coming out of the or like soaking through the cloth. Imagery like that is just effective. Like, that stuff's gonna stick with me. The images, certain shots in this movie are just sort of one of those weird, like, they melt into your brain. They just like, it's just a hell of an image, whether you like it or not,
Well, I also like when he's trying to to get her out of there, and they go through the lockers, and then all these motherfuckers are in the lockers coming after him. Yeah. I think that scene's really good.
Hey, that's again zombies.
Yeah. Dude, that is Day of the Dead.
You got hands coming through the slats, and this is zombie business. We're in zombie land here. We got zombies going.
When I was watching the movie, and with all the rape stuff going on, that's when I came up with the term rapies. That's when I said they are the rapies. They're coming out to rape everybody.
Yeah.
But once
I mean-
they're infected, it's all consensual, Jason.
No. Well, but there's still tons of people in the place that they're still chasing down. Like the one when St. Luke's running away when he goes in, you got the two guys running around in their colorful bikini underwear. Hey, what you doing in there?
Hey, you want to party?
Hey!
That's when he finally gets to Nick's apartment and sees that Nick is standing over Dr. Linsky
with his melted face.
Hey, what do we think about the scene with Linsky? Like okay, first we get, again, you want to talk about Alien. The things come out of the stomach. They have acid that burns you. They jump on his face. He's got the pliers. He's trying to pull them off his face with pliers. That's good stuff, man. Like, talk about effects. Like, that's an area where the effects are effective to me.
Would have been better. Like I said, if better effects though, like later on in his other movies, would have been the side shot of him grabbing with the pliers and pulling, and you can see
and his stick and stretching,
skin stretching and tearing as he's pulling. See, that would have been better.
Fair enough. But I thought that was effective. I thought it was creepy, and just the idea of pliers, having to resort to that, and that's
honestly, I think, probably the best scene in the movie. And it's just blood everywhere. It's like the bloodiest scene in the fucking movie, man. And but then that's when he opens fire on Nick, and that's the end of Mr. Nick the Dick.
Yeah, you noticed that he didn't take near as much time to shoot him as he did the guard that was trying to rape his girlfriend.
That was the first person he shot, right? Oh, he did kill a guy with a crowbar earlier, but
dude, he's killing that guy, and look at his face. It's like, dude, that's Joker going to town on Jason Todd. That's all I'm thinking about. Honestly.
Yeah, well, St. Luke, he's a doctor.
Awesome.
He's not used to killing people.
Right.
I think we can give him a minute to, adjust to murder. But
that guy does come out of nowhere and attack St. Luke. Like, I think we may have seen him one other time in the movie. But we don't know that we're to assume he's infected because he's like he's like tearing his shirt open and stuff. Yeah. But it's a very odd.
By this point, most everyone's affected.
Right
at this point in the movie, things are starting to fall apart. But but yeah, so he kills Nick, and now he's like, I got to get out of here. Like, he's basically just trying to escape.
Yeah.
He gets out through the pool. And then somehow everybody who's in the building is outside the building now, and they chase him back into the building.
I do love when he goes into the pool area, though, and just it's them just kind of like playing around with each other, and it's very slow, and like it's pretty creepy whenever he sees them in there.
Well, one thing I do like is you, like you said before, Josh, we spend time with Janine and Nick, and Nick's the lost cause, but you're kind of rooting for Janine at this point.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Janine does not make it. At some point, you think she's going to be like a final girl or something, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Her or Forsyth, and neither of them make it. In fact, no one makes it.
How do we feel about that scene with Betts and
That's what I was going to talk about with Betts and Janine, because earlier in the movie, I had wrote in my notes, like earlier in the movie, I said, I think there's something going on between them. Like Betts is a little interested in Janine before they're both infected.
Yeah.
And then when Betts gets infected in the bathtub, and then she comes, like, she just ran out of her apartment where her husband's like, let's make love. But then she runs into Betts, and she says, let's make love, and she hops right on her. Like, oh, yeah, let's make out.
I don't know if she hops right on her. You can tell that there's a little bit of hesitation.
No,
there.
she recoils big time, but yeah, you're right. She does eventually give in.
But that was a pretty quick
She was
recoil
basically
to kissing.
Yeah, she was
Pretty
basically her husband tried to rape her.
Yeah.
She goes to Betts for consolation, or and Betts wants to have sex, which is I mean, you got to think Janine's just really like has no idea what's going on. Like, everyone wants to have sex with her for some reason all of a sudden.
When Nick is trying to get Janine to make love with him, all I can think about is that scene in Return of the Living Dead.
You've got to let me eat your
When Forsyth is attacked in her apartment and she's making dinner. First of all, I just want to say, you really shouldn't poke a roast with your fork to test its doneness. You're just going to let juices out. Anyway, secondly, when she stabs the guy that's attacking her, that is actually Cronenberg himself. and he had a pad on his shoulder that she was supposed to stab, and she missed.
Ooh.
She stabbed him in the arm that he has a scar to this day from that scene where she stabs him in the arm with the fork. So that's kind of a fun little detail.
Stop making rapey movies.
This movie left
Yeah,
him
that's
scarred.
what you get for fake raping somebody.
There was an old lady that was infected.
I'm hungry for love.
That's
love.
That's the laundry lady again. Imagine Melissa McCarthy just sticking her head out the door, going, "I'm hungry for love."
That's so funny.
Definitely believable. Josh, in this pool scene, I know Mr. Pubes. I know Josh saw some pubes, right, buddy?
Yeah. There's some pubage going on in this scene.
Definitely some pubage. So I'm sure you were happy about that, you freak.
It was the 70s. You know, everybody went full bush.
Full bush.
This ending scene also reminded me of the end of It Follows in the pool and whatnot.
Sure. I mean, movie is influential.
Yeah.
It you wouldn't have Alien without it. You wouldn't have It Follows. You wouldn't have Slither. You wouldn't have Night of the Creeps. Guys, put some respect on Cronenberg's name here. This movie doesn't hold a candle to Alien.
No.
Obviously. But I can kind of see where Cronenberg's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you make a movie that has some of these aspects, and then all of a sudden an absolute classic film comes out that's one of the greatest films ever made, if not the greatest film ever made.
In someone's opinion.
I'm adding a little bit there. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to look at. It wasn't something I thought of when I was watching it, but I read it later and I was like, oh, it's interesting.
But I do love that the pool attack happens and then we close on everybody driving out of the parking deck, and then you get the
news
radio
report.
The news report over the radio as the credits roll, and it's a great little end. Again, like I love bad endings to movies, or when things don't tie up in a little bow at the end.
Right. Very common for outbreak movies,
Mm-hmm.
zombie movies, that kind of stuff that, it just couldn't be contained. And
Halloween 3.
Yep. Exactamundo.
Well, before we get to our good, the bad, and the ugly, Jason, whose tagline is it anyway?
Here we go. Let's see. We're going to keep it down to 5, because I think last week I did like 30. So we're going to do it really quick. Let's see who can figure out which ones I wrote and which ones Hollywood did. Let's get to this quick. There's something inside that wants to be free.
Eric, I'll let you go first.
Fuck you, Josh. I'm going to go fake.
I'll go real.
It's fake.
I
wrote it. Going mad is just the beginning.
Fake.
Real.
It's real.
See, it's a good thing I let you go first this time, Eric.
Man is an animal that's lost touch with his body, ... until now.
Fake.
Real.
It's fake.
Boo!
Terror beyond the point of science or a priest to exercise.
That's real. I know because I saw it on the poster.
So Jay's already telling
Real.
you. Yeah, it's real. I say, yeah.
I'll go with it.
Yeah, it's real.
Wouldn't that be funny if it was actually written on Eric's shirt?
It might.
Oh, wait, no, sorry, wrong movie.
Wrong movie. It would be funny if it.
It would be.
did.
The hunger for sexual freedom.
Fake.
It's fake. Sorry,
Oh,
I'm gonna go
no
6.
reason to laugh.
This one's pretty quick. I'm hungry. ... For love.
It's fake as fuck.
Fake.
Yes, it's fake. Eric wins by 1, people.
It's a miracle, you guys. I didn't think it was possible. The underdog finally wins, you guys. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
I'd like to thank everybody involved.
Thanks for your support. I want
Thanks
to
you,
thank
Jason.
I want to thank my family, my wife, my parents. Thank you, everybody. Fuck you, Josh. Thank you, Jason.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
All right, Eric, you picked the movie this week. You get to start.
My good is Brad, the old man in the doctor's office.
Yep.
Brad got game.
You don't have to go. I'm not shy.
Now, don't be a tease, Brad. I'm still working, you know.
Yes, I know.
I love that he's pushing mega vitamins. They can't stop or they can't reverse aging, but they might be able to stop the aging process. Mega vitamins. He loves them. Also, he not only thinks it's okay to have lumps in your body, but he thinks they're sexy because he thought that the girl having lumps in her stomach was sexy, and he thought he was fine because he had lumps sticking out of his stomach.
I thought it was kind of sexy.
Brad is my MVP of the film.
I like my women lumpy.
I thought it was kind of sexy. Oh, you're not going to cut into me, are you? I've just got all these weird moving lumps inside my stomach. What a psycho.
I love when Dr. St. Luke finishes and he's like, put your clothes on. That dude was hairy as fuck.
He was. He looked great for his age, though. Bad is the radio station knows every detail of the crime scene. They describe it in incredible detail on the radio, and they shouldn't know all that. It's funny because they're like, at the end of all that, they're like, cops aren't giving any names, or police aren't giving any names. It's like, bro, you just knew like every minor, like you just can't even, like, it just doesn't make sense. And ugly is in the crime scene, another crime scene reference. The cop that's cleaning up at the end of the crime scene steps in the blood.
I noticed that.
Yeah, which, you know,
what I find so funny about that scene is how St. Luke is just standing there in the corner while everything's going on. Like, who the fuck is this guy and why is he in the crime scene?
He's the doctor.
No.
Yeah, he's the building doctor.
Well, no, he found the body.
He
right?
found the body, right?
He found the body. So
still,
that's
like,
why he's there. But yeah, he does seem rather calm for what he came across here, which is a complete, like, horrible scene. Also, it's funny because the detective guy is like, did you touch anything? Like, he's careful about the crime scene. He wants to know that the crime scene has been messed with. And then the one cop's just like steps right in the blood on his way out. That's my ugly, and that's it. I'm done.
All right. I'm anxious to hear this. Jason, good, the bad, and the ugly.
The good, it's a Cronenberg movie.
You know, what does that even mean to you, Jason?
It's just a Cronenberg movie.
All right.
I mean, I get that he was trying to do this whole sexual freedom type thing, and maybe that's what he was.
I don't think it's about sexual freedom. I think it's about. Anyway,
it's like you said, opening the door and walking out and letting the world see without your inhibitions getting in the way.
No, I don't think it's pro incest or pro.
No. Not to say that. I'm talking about just the overall sexuality part of it.
All right, fine.
That it's okay to be sexual. It's okay to be sexual.
Not sure.
And
that's what it's saying
then we
either,
get into then, like I said, that's the part I get. That's okay that he might have been trying to get across. The bad is the parasites, the acting, and then it not being just about sexual freedom and it just being a movie that uses rape as to make it a horror movie. And that's horrible visuals to the whole thing of just ongoing rape to the whole movie from the point we get to about halfway done. It's just rape. And it's horrible. And then the ugly is more rape, the incest, and it's just, I don't like this movie. I will never watch it again.
I'm not going to be rushing back to watch this again.
Yeah,
I found it interesting. I've been kind of defending it here. I'm not excited to rewatch this. I don't know if I'll come back to it for a very long time.
I put it in the basement with Life Force. I put it down there.
Rabid was more fun. I
want to watch Rabid. I have not seen Rabid. I was saying this is not going to turn me off from maybe watching Rabid. Right. And I haven't seen Scanners in years, but I did see it. But
what about The Brood? Have you seen The Brood?
I have not seen The Brood.
Oh, okay.
And I'll watch that too. But
maybe we'll get there someday.
I mean, I will still watch his other movies. I I don't know. Like I said, I lost a little bit of respect for him from the fact that he wrote it and he directed it, and it just seemed like a cop out, like an easy way. Let me make this movie that's going to be disturbing. I'll just throw a bunch of rape on the screen with incest and pedophilia too, and it'll make people uneasy to watch it
for a moment.
Yeah.
And I'm totally playing devil's advocate here, you guys, okay? Because I like I said before, I don't really like rape scenes, but there's no real actual rape scenes in this movie. If you compare it to something like I Spit on Your Grave or something like that.
That's
just
I have a hard
over
time.
the top.
Yeah.
This suggests it toes the line, but for as many unsettling scenes as there are in this, it doesn't actually show that.
Yeah, it's implied rape through the rest of the movie.
It is implied, or they're after you because that's what they want.
But it's not even once or twice in the film. I mean,
no,
it is
absolutely the theme. I agree.
Yeah, so that's my problem. But yeah, this will definitely not be a rewatch. I will put it in the basement or put it in a box with Life Force. Throw it off the boat with the concrete block and never watch it.
Put it in the box with Life Force and The Howling.
Oh no, The Howling still is a superior film to both of those movies. So,
all
right, Josh.
Well, my good echoes Jason's in the sense that this is our introduction to Cronenberg. I'm very happy that we have a David Cronenberg in our lives because I very much enjoy his movies. Everybody starts somewhere, though. I mean, this isn't the best work we've seen from David Cronenberg. I don't even know if it's his worst work, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, there's things that are hard to swallow here, pun intended. But I just it's a nice little introduction to like David Cronenberg's themes of body horror and sexual, horror, social commentary with sexual freedom and things of that nature. And, again, like there's a lot of talk about The Fly being a low key like movie about STDs and shit like that. So, I mean, it's always been a part of the things that he's done. So, I mean, therefore, using it as a shock factor in this movie, maybe I can understand where Jason's coming from there, but I don't view it in the way that Jason does, that it's just rape all the time. Like it's got a lot of that here, but I think what David Cronenberg's doing with it is interesting. I would love to know what you guys think of that movie, The Sadness, that came out, because
I haven't watched that yet.
It's if you think this movie is fucking rapey, that one's bad. But it's an interesting movie, I do have to say. So that's really what I get out of this. And then some of the comedy in this works for me, some of it doesn't. I think the old man that Eric brought up is fucking hilarious. Brad.
Yeah, he's cool. Yeah.
Brad's cool. We're all good with Brad.
The bad for me is Paul Hampton, Dr. St. Luke. I think he's awful. That's
wrong. I liked him.
You're wrong.
He's a poor man's Warren Beatty. And that brings me to my ugly. My ugly is Dr. St. Luke's hair. His fucking hair is bad.
I'm with you on that one.
It's just that combination of bad hair, dry personality, and terrible acting. I just don't like him in this movie at all.
Stick to being a songwriter.
Yeah, that's been.
He
working
obviously does
for
good
you.
at that. So, hey, when you're writing songs for the king, you're doing good.
Yeah,
that's funny. I really thought he was kind of funny.
Maybe you you love deadpan humor probably a lot more than I do. So maybe you're watching it from that standpoint. For me, it was just I saw him as a bad actor. I didn't really connect with anything that he was doing on screen. But that's just me. That's my opinion.
Whatever. Yeah.
Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got them. They all stink.
My ass smells like a rose.
Why did Kiss from a Rose just pop in my head when you said that?
I'm talking Static X, but
my ass smells like a rose from the grave.
From the grave. It's going to be a stinky one.
Well, hopefully our next Cronenberg movie we talk about will be of a higher standard for Jason, so he can actually enjoy watching it this time. But who knows when or what that will be. We'll find out sometime in the future. We'll be coming back next week to talk our top 4 horror houses.
Not haunted, just horror
Just houses, famous horror houses. But tell us what you think about Shivers. Tell us what you thought about our conversation. Do you like Shivers? Do you not like Shivers? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button so you know when we're putting out new episodes. And until we see you next time, be kind.
Rewind. Don't watch rapies.
Don't be a rapey.
Don't be a rapey, people.
I knew from the moment I started watching this movie that Jason was going to hate it. From the moment it started, I was like, Jason's going to hate this fucking movie.
But just because of the sexual assault thing pretty much at the beginning?
Oh no, just because it's a 70s movie that is not all that exciting and boring.
Well, you just said it. It's boring and not exciting, so you knew I would hate it.
From your perspective. From your perspective.